Today, guys, we are going to show you how we got in thousands, hundreds of thousands, actually even $1 million of debt, and how that made us millions. Stick around to the very end, and we're going to show you the #1 strategy that we've started to use, how we have become, are starting to become, our own bank. As always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave us a comment if you find value in this video.
Now, if you're like me, you hear debt and you think of bills piling up and everything's overdue and oh my gosh, they're gonna come take the house. That's what I think of when I think about debt. But there's
Poor old Dave.
Dave Ramsey. He'll make you think that way.
I'm in about $200,000 of debt.
Oh my Lord, what's your income?
About $50,000.
Are you out of your dang gum mind? For the next 12 years, you will not be having any fun.
But there is bad debt, and so there is a reason to have those fears sometimes when you are putting that money in the wrong types of debt. But there's also the really, really good debt, which is what we're gonna be talking about here today, and how that good debt can also make you a millionaire and a multi-millionaire.
And how that people like Dave Ramsey and other financial gurus that tell you to get out all this debt, be debt-free, pay cash, are for middle-class people who don't want to be ultimately wealthy. To be honest with you, if that's your goal, stop watching right now. This video is not for you. However, if you're wanting to grow to where you can own your own plane and you want to own hundreds of thousands of units, stay with us, keep watching, and we're gonna show you the exact steps that we have used and have been successful with, and also what we should not do anymore and what has been a big issue.
You know, this all comes from us, of course, having gone down this path of good debt versus bad debt. And I think a lot of things you need to consider in this debt scenario is how comfortable you are with debt. I know me personally, even though I know all the things about it, it is still a dream of mine to have this man, you know, finally let me have a completely paid off property that we could live in for forever. But I mean, that's leverage that I'm essentially giving up on. So that's not the plan right now.
And as you can see, both Nikki and I, in our heads, are already different in what good debt and what bad debt is.
Yeah.
So just to give you a couple of clarity on what debt is good and what we're talking about. Debt that can have cash flowing assets, or debt that you get in for money making opportunities, is what I and Nikki consider good debt. I am even a little bit more towards if you have to use a credit card to buy a property, do it. Nikki is probably a little bit further away from me.
I have a lower debt tolerance than you do.
Correct.
Which is fine, and I think we've definitely had arguments about debt specifically. I think it's important that if you are a couple, you have that understanding and you know where each other stand on it.
100%. And you want to make sure that not only you know where each other stand, but you respect that for the other person. So if Nikki doesn't want us to be in hundreds of thousands of dollars of credit card debt, then you have to make sure that that's going to affect your daily life. And you want to make sure that you pay that down just because that makes your significant other happy over, you know, happy wife, happy life.
He has finally caught on.
With the bad debt, the debt that you want to really stay away from is unsecured debt. If it's not secured by a cash flowing asset, I usually try to stay away from it. So,
what about just an appreciating asset?
An appreciating asset can be a lot of different things. So the watch I'm wearing is technically an appreciating asset, but I'm not going to use a credit card to buy a watch unless I'm doing it to flip out of it, which there is people that use watches to flip and gain equity. So if I'm doing it that way, then I am going to use debt, because that debt is going to create income for me. Does that make sense? But right now, this is just something that I enjoy wearing. So I'm not going to use debt for that, because it's not a cash flowing, something that I'm going to make active income with.
I see.
Property that you are purchasing, flipping, building, anything like that, to have debt on that property, in my opinion, is not only fine, but encouraged, because the debt allows you to create a larger ROI, or return on the investment. Most of my deals, my goal is to have $0 of my own money in it. What that looks like is I try and do a bank loan for most of the debt.
Just to clarify, we are not buying houses with credit cards. I think we said that earlier. Not buying houses with credit cards.
But I would.
But he would.
If you're getting started and you can get access to cash however makes you feel comfortable and can make you money.
Yeah.
Even if that is through a credit card.
Okay, very well then.
Now, you have to be careful with that.
You do. We have fallen into that trap before.
We have.
Yeah.
We have.
Be careful.
Back to the good debt on an asset. So I try and make sure that I'm in a project, I don't have any of my own cash in that. The reason behind that is because my cash I use for my business to create more leads, to do more deals.
To create more opportunity is
That's
where
right.
you want your cash to go.
Exactly. I invest my cash back into my business, and I invest other people's cash in property that makes my business income.
And in turn makes them income.
Exactly. A deal, we have 90% with the bank. The last 10%, we use OPM, or other people's money. And that is just a second lien position. The bank is in first position, which means they have the first right to take the property back.
So if you don't pay the bills, or you for some reason can't get the job done, the bank then owns it.
No, they don't necessarily own it, but what they do is they warn you. They say, okay, you have missed X amount of payments, we're gonna take this property back.
Okay.
Right? So if you have somebody in second position and the first position forecloses, the second position is out of luck.
Got it.
So a second position loan is very risky for the investor, but if you know what you're doing, it's not that risky.
Right.
Now, take what we're doing and do it 100 times. Do you think you're going to make more money or less money the more deals you do once you know how to do it?
More.
Of course, the answer is more. And that is why debt is a good way and is good for creating a massive amount of wealth and doing it very quickly. Starting off, we did go down that road of bad debt. We got hundreds of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. We got all these, daily loans. We got all kinds of stuff, because the thing was for me is I knew how to make money.
You were very good at it.
I wanted to do it exceptionally quick. Growing too quick, too fast with too much debt does create an issue.
It does.
So make sure that when you're doing these deals that you know exactly how much you have, you know exactly that you could get out of it. And for us, it's been huge to have an emergency fund for our business.
If anything, even if that amount didn't cover what we needed it to cover, the peace of mind that has is worth it.
Because my number one asset that I have is my company. My company is the biggest cash flowing generating asset I have. Having cash back to make sure that is running at all times is the biggest important for me. And when I first started, I didn't understand that. I kept thinking that all these other properties are what's gonna get me going, buying this multifamily deal, investing in an Amazon store, that was stupid. And we're gonna be the be all end all for a cash flowing asset. And that's just not the case. My business is the number one cash flowing asset I had. And I was taking money from that business and throwing it into these properties.
Or other smaller business ventures.
1 out of 10 would go bad and I would have to adjust. I'm not one that sits here and tells you I haven't lost money. I have lost money. Not only have I lost money, I've lost a large amount of money. But because of those losses, I've also figured out what is and is not the right way to do real estate. As we said earlier, our debt was very bad debt. So what we did is we started creating new opportunities that had better profit margins. We also made sure that none of our own cash was in these deals so that we could keep the cash in the business like we're talking about, and then move forward from there with the good debt. There is nothing wrong with having a HELOC. There's nothing wrong with having a business line of credit. There's nothing wrong with having a business credit card. If all these things are running your company and you need that to expand your number one asset, do it. That is what I consider good debt. because that debt is helping you create money and create income. As you create more income, you can do tons of things with that. You can buy more property. You can go and help more people. You can be more generous. But getting into the stupid debt and the non-secured, the Lambo or the watches like this or anything like that up front before you have cash flowing assets is not good.
Right, I agree.
I told you don't buy these assets, but once you use the debt, get your assets in line, you can take that cash flow and buy whatever you want. If you feel like you want to buy a Bentley, go buy a Bentley because you have the cash flow coming in. Buy assets first, use good debt to buy assets, and then use the cash flow to buy liability.
The fun stuff.
That's right. Guys, you've waited well to the end, so we're gonna let you know exactly what we're doing right now to really create a better position for us long-term with us trying to become the bank.
That sounds pretty scary. Like, we want to be the bank.
I wanna own a bank, so if anybody out there wants to sell a bank, just,
Holler at your boy,
Holler at your boy. One of the things that we have learned, which we are not the experts in this by any means, is a whole life policy that creates cash value. Then you can take the cash value and loan it from yourself to start becoming the bank. So that is one thing that over the last year we have started to really push. We have a couple of resources if you want it. DM us bank at our Instagram and we'll get you that information. This is really a way for you to create a long-term growth plan and also be able to borrow the money. Normally a whole life policy, it is definitely not something you want to do, but once you go to a certain point and you want to create more wealth and you want to stop having, like, our current interest rate on a lot of our hard money loans are 12 to 15%. The interest rate we could borrow money from ourselves in this policy is 4%. That has been the biggest thing that has been a mindset shift for us, is getting into that policy and then starting to transition some of our deals into that. As well as now that we're bankable, we have started really using and relying on banks more that have lower debt. They're gonna take that cash value life insurance policy and they'll lend against that for better rates.
And eventually we want to be able to be the ones to send people money at 20, 30% interest, right?
Exactly.
That's kind of high, maybe like 12%.
So guys, thanks for sticking around with us. As always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave us a comment.